Okay. All right. Well, welcome, friends, to our Thursday Dharma Contemplation. And we haven't really done the Dharma Contemplation that much. If you haven't done this before, the instruction is to read it face down for right now. And then I'll tell you when it's time to turn it over. The big mystery. The Dharma Contemplation, the way we do it, actually was started in the centering prayer with nuns in centering prayer. But it works beautifully regardless of what kind of scripture we're using it over. And so, Kevin, I'm going to ask you to share with someone in the room. Everyone in the room has a copy of what we're working from today. And so if there's someone you feel comfortable with your mask on being next to, if you just pull your chair up there. Okay. Sorry, I didn't make enough copies. I didn't realize we were going to be quite this full today. I'm so grateful we are, though. Okay, so we begin with silence. We nurture openness and receptivity to the teachings. Prepare for a meeting with the unknown. To begin with, we'll do, after we start in silence, then I'll ring the bell. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead popcorn style. Well, first of all, we're going to read the writing. We're going to read it in a male voice and in a female voice. So it will be read 2 times through. Once we start that, Santikaro, if you can put it up on your screen there for our friends on Zoom or our friends on YouTube, that would be lovely. And then after we've read it through twice, once in a male voice, once in a female voice, then we're going to do another short little sit. I'll ring the bell at the beginning, I'll ring the bell at the end. Then we're going to have a moment to speak out the words and phrases that touch you from this passage. Listen deeply to the words shared by others. Speak only words of the text and ruminate. So this isn't a time for sharing. This is just a time for what words or phrases kind of stood out for you like they were highlighted. Okay, and that's what we'll share in that moment. And then let these words find a home in your memory as others are sharing. So then we'll ring the bell again and we'll do just a short little sit to allow that stuff to kind of settle in. Then we're going to come back, and in the next round, what we're going to do is, remaining absorbed in the words, turn towards the resonances in the body. This is like a body scan type of meditation. We've all done that, where you're looking at sensations in the body. So what is it in there that resonates in your physicalness? And then what is it like when this phrase was spoke, I felt a deep, achy feeling in my heart area, or tightness in my throat, that kind of thing. That's what we're looking for, not thoughts, just physical sensations. So felt responses is what we're calling that. Speak only the felt responses related specifically to the text. Okay. Then we'll do another bell and we'll go into a short sit. And when we come out, after each one of these steps, we'll do that short sit. Okay, when we come out, we're going to talk about the meaning. So we'll explore the meaning of the words and phrases, inquire, do not be afraid to analyze. So there's where we start inviting our thinking mind in. Notice how threads of meaning are woven. Are there ambiguities, metaphors in the context? How clearly can these words be understood? Friends, I did not make enough copies of the work that we're working on today. And so if somebody is willing to share with another, if you could pass a copy to our dear friends back here so that they can share together. Thank you. So then we'll be looking at the meanings and that sort of thing. Then we do the bell. Then when we come out of the sit, we go into the essence, discern what's true in this text. what's universal, timeless, beyond the personal. Inquire into what is being named that is simply the operation of nature. Sense how the essence of the text comes to life in you now. Speak that essence. Move patiently between the printed words and the inner words and the silences. And then the last little part of this is the dialogue. That's where we actually get to share whatever came up for you during this. Okay, and I'll refresh your memory. And having said all that, that's the invitation of the Dharma contemplation. If it starts to get a little off target, I'm not going to be correcting you. Do what feels right in your heart. And if this thing turns a little different, I've watched Venerable as she's allowed us to surf the waves of the Dharma. And so knowing that you can't do anything wrong here. Okay, so we'll begin with just a very short sit. Okay, so now can I have a volunteer for a male voice to read this? Yes, thank you, Josh.
Now, Kunda.
Yes.
Now, Kunda, effacement, the rubbing out of self, should be practiced by you. Others will speak maliciously, will have ill will be covetous, will be of wrong mindfulness, will be insolent, will be resentful, will be doubters, will be angry, will chatter and speak empty words, will be jealous, will be envious, will speak words here and there to divide friends, will be obstinate, will be difficult to admonish, will be shameless, will have no fear of wrongdoing, will adhere to their own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty. All who have not abandoned these sufferings and cause others to suffer. We should not do that here. Among those who are out of tune, the disciple of the noble ones dwells in tune. Among those who are malicious, he dwells without malice. Having attained the stream of Dhamma, he develops the recollection of virtue. And the disciple gains a sense of the goal, gains a sense of the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. In one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. One whose body is calm experiences ease. In one at ease, the mind becomes concentrated.
Thank you. May I have a female voice, please? Yeah, thank you, Susan. Now, Kunda, effacement, the rubbing out of self, should be practiced by you. Others will speak maliciously, will have ill will be covetous, will be of wrong mindfulness, will be insolent, will be resentful, will be doubters, will be angry, will chatter and speak empty words, will be jealous, will be envious, will speak words here and there to divide friends,
will be obstinate, will be difficult to admonish, will be shameless, will have no fear of wrongdoing, will adhere to their own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty. All who have not abandoned these suffer and cause others to suffer. We should not do that here. Among those who are out of tune, the disciple of the noble ones dwells in tune. Among those who are malicious, he dwells without malice. Having attained the stream of Dhamma, he develops the recollection of virtue, and the disciple gains a sense of the goal, gains a sense of the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. In one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. One whose body is calm experiences ease. In one at ease, the mind becomes concentrated.
Thank you, Susan. And since we don't have it up for you all yet, those of you who are online, I'm just going to read it a third time. Sometimes that third time's a charm. So, and also I'm on the mic.
Put it in the chat.
Oh, you put it in the chat. Okay, everybody look at your chat and you'll be able to see it. Now, Kunda, effacement, the rubbing out of self should be practiced by you. Others will speak maliciously, will have ill will be covetousness, will be of wrong mindfulness, will be insolent, will be resentful, will be doubters, will be angry, will chatter and speak empty words, will be jealous, will be envious, will speak words here and there to divide friends, will be obstinate, will be difficult to admonish, will be shameless, will have no fear of wrongdoing, will adhere to their own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty. All who have not abandoned these suffer and cause others to suffer. We should not do this here. Among those who are out of tune, the disciples of the noble ones dwell in tune. Among those who are malicious, he dwells without malice. Having attained the stream of Dhamma, he develops the recollection of virtue. And the disciple gains a sense of the goal, gains a sense of the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. In one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. One whose body is calmed experiences ease. In one at ease, the mind becomes concentrated. So let's sit for just a moment, absorbing these words. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to speak out words and phrases that have touched us. We're going to listen deeply to others as they speak them. We're going to use only the words from the text at this point. So please feel free, popcorn style, Santikara, if people put them in the chat, would you just speak them out for us? Thank you.
Defacement.
In June.
Effacement, the rubbing out of self.
Well, into
Suffering and cause others to suffer.
Recollection of virtue.
Will be angry.
Body grows calm.
Stream of Dharma.
Attain the stream of Dharma.
At ease.
Hold on to them tenaciously.
Dwells in tune, says Brian Silver.
So let us sit again for just a few moments. So now we're going to move on to the felt physical responses to these words. So we'll do it the same way we did, popcorn style, just when it feels right, go ahead and speak.
Curiosity.
And how does curiosity resonate in the body? Where is it located and what's the physical sensation of it?
In the heart space, and it feels like wanting to expand.
Okay, thank you.
Contracted tension. A feeling of this in the gut when I read through. Others will have ill will be covetous, will be right. This creates that tension of the impossible nature of overcoming sometimes this impasse. Creates,
So a contracted tension in the gut. Okay, thank you.
would it be okay if when people speak, they like pull their mask off a little bit so that they can hear better at home?
We're all socially distanced except when we're sitting with our own pod. So please do, when you speak, take your mask off. That'll help people to hear.
The word rapture also makes me want to expand the heart, but I feel closed in.
The word effacement gives me some release. My body let go of something.
Thank you.
I felt effacement in the throat.
Thank you.
And I read dwells in tune. I feel a release in my hip areas.
What was the word again, Susan?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dwells in tune.
Dwells into. And you felt a release in your hip
In
area?
my hip area,
Okay,
like a surrender.
beautiful, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and sit again for just a few moments. So now we're moving to the meaning. So exploring the meaning in the words and phrases. Don't be afraid to analyze. Notice how the threads of meaning are woven. Notice if they've found metaphors, ambiguities. And please feel free to speak those out. Sensing how the essence of the text comes to life in you right now. Freedom? Yes. Thank you.
Love the word effacement and then image of the rubbing out of self, just like an eraser, erasing all that you think you are.
The rubbing out of self, the effacement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
I have trouble with the word rapture in two ways. When it says, one who is joyful, rapture arises, okay? And in one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. Rapturous to me means something that's extremely passionate and full of energy. The other problem I have with it is in my own tradition, the rapture is the second coming of Christ. So you start to use a word like that in a different context, and it inevitably gets shaded somehow. So I'm trying to be at one with all the different meanings.
Yes, yes, thank you, Joshua. That's a good point. And when we get to the dialogue section, we can revisit that in a little more depth. Okay. Thank you for pointing it out. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go back into a very short sit. So next, what we're going to do is just speak the essence. Did we do that? We didn't do that yet. We just did the meaning, right? Okay. Okay, so discerning what is true in the text, what's universal, timeless, what is beyond the personal here. Inquiring what is being named, that is simply the operation of nature. Speaking the essence as it touches you.
Among those who are out of tune, the disciple of the noble ones dwells in tune. To me, that's the essence of what I'm reading.
Thank you.
It's the instruction.
Yeah, thank you.
I love he develops a recollection of virtue, and the disciple gains a sense of the goal. In the beginning, when I was reading, all of the anger and all of that, I have to say that I was thinking, gosh, I was hanging on to all the times, but I've done that in the past and continue to do that. I know that's the personal, but I recognize in the next paragraph, there is a letting go, and that there's a practice towards the goal without having to be perfect. And this rubbing out is a process, and perhaps I should be delighted when there's an opportunity for me to see and then do differently.
Thank you so much for that chunk of wisdom, Susan.
You're so welcome.
For me, it's the describing of the others. That there will always be people who are operating out of tune always. That's just the universal truth. And so I can let go of trying to change others.
Yeah, you pointed directly to that. What is just the operation of nature? It's the world of samsara. Yes. Thank you, Kevin.
I think tapping into what Kevin just shared, all who have not abandoned these suffer and cause others to suffer. And the reality of our work, our practice, is to note when these things are coming up, because it's sort of what Deepa says, when are you ready to stop suffering? And noting that, and then realizing that our practice can lead us away from that, but also that without doing that, it not only causes us suffering, but others as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
When I was hearing, well, I was thinking about the word effacing because I have been contemplating it for a while. And so when I was meditating here, I was listening to the bell, and there were pigeons also chanting, and the wind, I was able to feel the wind very beautifully. And I just wrote, effacing my fears while the pigeons respond to the bells in a unison, embraced by the wind, which also hears the voices in another language. Because I was hearing also people speaking. I'm in Brazil right now and speaking Portuguese all the time. So listen, everything was happening at the same time. Like nothing is permanent, but it's very present. And I think the wind, it's something that's permanent because it connects everything.
Beautiful, Fatima. Thank you. Okay, friends, we're going to go back into another little short sit. Okay, so I want to commend you all for everybody kind of stayed right with the instruction. It's almost never happens in this kind of Dharma contemplation. So I salute you, my friends. But now we are in the dialogue part. And so joining together in the immediate experience of Dharma, the way things actually are, release the text, trust that it will inform the present moment. Speak to the present experience, sharing your observations, your pain, your insights. Listen deeply to others as they speak. Yes, Joe.
This text resonates with an experience I had last night.
Mask, please.
Oh, sorry. This text resonates with an experience I had last night and actually answered the question. The experience was I was watching I watched Super Soul Sunday, which is an Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
They record it, so they're in the library. So I was just doing nothing else. So I was browsing through. And I saw one where the guest was a comedian. And so I said, oh, that'll be interesting. I love comedians. So I watched it. And I found that as he was describing, he had been in a car accident. There was all this, he almost died. He was in a coma. He kind of went to the other side and described it. And I found that, as he was describing kind of his view at this point in time after all that I was really able to see very clearly and experience it for myself just by hearing how he was describing it. And so I was so inspired by that. So I felt almost a oneness through just his description. And so I was so inspired by that I watched another one. This one was with Elizabeth Lesser, who's written many books. And she described a scenario where her and her sister got bone cancer, and she was a perfect match. And so she was to give her sister bone marrow, but they decided together that they'd had so many differences in their lives, so much separateness, so many differences growing up, etc., that they would use a psychologist and they would try to come together and resolve so many of those misunderstandings, etc., so that the bone marrow would work the best, would be synchronized as it went over. And they found that, after only a couple of meetings with the psychologist, that this was very easy and that they could simply let go of so many of the assumptions and misunderstandings and drop the need to be defensive. And once again, I had an experiential kind of an experience of this oneness through this description. And it made me feel like, wow, I can do this with everybody I know. My sister, my sisters, my brother. And then, as I sort of came out of that sort of experience and kind of, went to bed later and was reading something else and kind of got into maybe ordinary mind again, I realized, the other person really has to be willing to partake. Otherwise, you get what is outlined in the first paragraph oftentimes. And there's not necessarily a willingness to let go. And so the instruction in the first part of the second paragraph, that's why that was so key for me, is because it was an instruction for what to do when there's this gap, there's this.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Joe.
Sure.
I just wanted to share real quick, Maureen, that this for me is a reminder to continuously, really let go. And the way I can let go is to practice being in the moment. I'm often not. But when I am in the moment, then I'm not thinking about my misgivings from the past, and I'm not so worried about the future and everything. And I can be more able to experience oneness with others when I'm just kind of collected myself. So me, it's so much about letting go. I have trouble with that. So just a reminder to forgive myself and to be as present as I possibly can.
Thank you so much, Susan. That's so important, to not let that thinking mind come in through the back door and make a problem out of you. Because none of us are perfect. This is not a showcase. This is a workshop, and if we can be gentle with ourselves to the degree that we can be gentle here, that adds an element of authenticity to how we're non-judgmental out in the world. So thank you for sharing that.
It seems to be the core of the practice, effacement. And I hear a lot of people like ask questions about how do you practice not self, and it's effacement, and getting into the flow of constantly letting go in situations. Is that practice of emptiness? It really encompasses every piece of the Buddhist teaching. These two right here.
Yeah. Thank you, Ananda. Yes, Joshua.
I want to be honest with you and admit that when I'm given a text and asked to look at it, take it in and analyze it, my training comes back very strongly in me as an academic. And the first thing that I want to do is question every part of it. So it's beautiful to hear people's testimonies about how they resonate with the text and how it helps them. And I'm sitting back here sort of grumbling, well, what about this? What about this word? What about this contradiction? So, and there's this text in here that I can't get away from focusing on. Will adhere to their own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty. Now, I always say that character traits are neither negative nor positive. They can manifest in both ways. And tenacity in our society is not a negative word. So that's something that is wonderful to think about. Now, it helps me in the investigation of and practice of the middle way to see that there are some aspects on one side of the way and some aspects on the other side of the way. And I'm not going to walk down the way and only look to the right and see everything that's beautiful and positive and flowery. I'm also going to acknowledge the things that are on the other side of the street, but not actually give them in my own consciousness some kind of extra power or value. And I just say that in that tenaciously, we tenaciously hold to the idea of the Dharma. And so all things are possible to be good or bad, depending upon the user and the usefulness brought about by the consciousness of the user. So this is enriching me in my own way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I appreciate you bringing that up. Will adhere to their own views and hold to them tenaciously. I think you pointed to that beautifully, how that is the negative way that we use tenacity. But tenacity is a beautiful tool, like you said, to hold tenaciously to the Dharma instead of our own individual personal views. That's the end of suffering. And without that tenacity, we can easily get sucked back in. And so I'd love something else that you said there, Joshua, about being an academic. And by your training, you're automatically going to go, but this, and then that. And it's like we all have an inner academic that is that skeptical side of us. There again, skepticism is another one to me, like tenacity, in that to do your independent investigation of truth, you actually need a little skepticism. Otherwise, you're going to fall for everything that comes down the pike. And so that healthy skepticism versus a skepticism that gets in your way where your heart can't hear because your brain is so busy analyzing. My husband's also an academic, Joshua, and he's talked about that inner academic as well. Thanks for pointing it out. Yes, Soma.
So I look at the self responses as a way of really marking what's going on in my internal landscape and noting when it's starting to happen, when ill will happens, when anger happens, and where that sets with me. And that's my alert system that says something's up. and being able then to go to abandoning those pieces. And it goes back to, is this, well, I would say with the children, helpful or hurtful to me? And it really is about monitoring ourselves in a way that we know how to do that. And I think it really does start with the felt response, because as soon as we get into our head, we've lost the direction and the guidance.
Yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out. So it's that rubbing out of self, you know, the more we do that, the more those edges come off. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Something that I'd like to bring up is the one that Joshua pointed out in one of the previous, the essence, I think. One who is joyful, in one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. And I know exactly what Joshua was talking about, because that hit me the exact same way when we read it. It's like it grows rapturous, and that feels like a lot of movement, you know, a lot of excitement, that kind of thing. I think this rapture that we're speaking of here, I can't wrap words around it. I can feel it inside, but I can't really wrap words around it. So if one of you is picking up on it and knows how to wrap words around this, the best I can do is that joy that is not, it's not a joy of the human animal joy. It's the human animal is resonating with a higher dharmic joy. I keep feeling like you got the answer, Ananda.
I think you said it pretty well.
Did
It's
I?
that rapture is not attached to us. It's something that we can understand. And while joy and metta can even be a higher resonating frequency, it's also not ourselves. It's something that we can unify with.
So to kind of sum that up, so rapture is a selfless thing. If rapture has the self with it, it does what we think about as Christians when Christ comes back and we jump on the Jesus train, and it's like, yeah, I mean, there's an excitement and there's movement in that. But when the self drops away, that same beautiful feeling of like a divine bliss almost, is that kind of it? But there's no self there. Is that what we're kind of getting at? So there again, Joshua, thank you for pointing out the polarities here. This has been a really good session for me. And all of you all, thank you so much for all of your deep wisdom. I love this practice because when we come together and we read these things and then we sit with them like we did, and we give those little tiny quiet sittings between for us to actually let it kind of, we're these dry sponges and the Dharma is this beautiful rain. And as we listen to the words and then we listen to the felt responses, and after each one we drop in and we let that rain hydrate the sponge of our heart. And the wisdom of each one of us, this to me is the refuge of the Sangha. It's so beautiful. I've never left one of these Dharma contemplations without having so much love and gratitude for you all, and feeling like I got a whole new perspective on this that I might have just read and said, oh, that's lovely, and not got those points. But each of you pointing to them, and Regina too, and Fatima, those of you on Zoom, thank you so very much for sharing your wisdom here today. We are about to the end of our time together. And so what I would like to do as an offering of merit from our practice here together is I would like us to chant the loving kindness chant together. Those of you who don't know it, listen, it's easy and you'll get it. Okay. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. So hold that feeling and let's just sit for a few last moments, soaking in the loving kindness and feeling it radiate to all beings everywhere, not one left out. So thank you again, dear friends, for joining us today and for sharing, and for those of you who just held the space in silence, all of you, thank you so much for doing this. So I'd like to send you off with a mantra. When in doubt, ask yourself, what would Deepa do? And smile, stranger. Love you all.
Thank you, Maureen. I love you.
Love you too, Fatima.